Cassandra Goldie joins me now. Cassandra, welcome to the programme.
Thank you.
What is your recommendation to the government on JobSeeker?
Well, the report's very clear. Its first priority is, again, we need a substantial increase to JobSeeker and youth allowance. This is the third time the committee has highlighted that as the number one measure we need to support people who are the most financially distressed in a very serious cost of living crisis. And to date, we've had only one small increase of JobSeeker. It was a couple of years ago, $20 per week. And the report today confirms it was nowhere near enough. People are still in acute, severe distress, going without food, mental health crises for many people being caused by the inadequacy of this payment. I mean, let's remember, it's $56 a day, Sarah, so that equates to about $20,000 per year to survive on in a very serious cost of living crisis, and the committee's report is very clear.
Now, $20,000 a year, the government rejected your recommendation on the last two occasions, and they've given no indication yet whether they're going to follow through this time. Why come back with the same request?
Well, the government's response each time has been, we'll consider the findings of the report. In every budget, we'll look at what we can do in terms of what's fiscally responsible. And I must say, as I watched the government implement $20 billion in tax cuts last year, so which went to including people on the very highest incomes in the country, I think we can all quite rightly say, why will you not fix the incomes of people who have the very least? And this is about the credibility of a government who says that it won't leave anybody behind, who says that it wants to get the priorities right. And so it is very important, I think, for every politician to see that the evidence is before the community, it's before you, it's before us as a community. What will we tolerate on our watch when we've got, on the one hand, some people doing extraordinarily well, and yet we've got over 1 million people in deep poverty because the government won't move to fix it?
Now, what the Treasurer's argument last budget was that indexation had led to an increase in JobSeeker. He said, you know, we can't afford to do everything, as you're referring to, and pointed to other cost of living measures. Now, the Treasurer came to your committee, I understand, as well as the Social Services Minister. What kinds of questions was he asking? Did you think that he was taking seriously the evidence you were putting before him?
Well, I certainly hope that he is, because I know he's working on a budget right now. And this is the third report which has said, thank you, we hear you, we see what's been done on energy bill relief. Costs $3.5 billion, Sarah, it's one-off. And for people who are the most financially disadvantaged, that will not deal with their experience of inequality and deprivation. The committee is saying this must be the first priority and urge this Treasurer to be the one to move it. And I want to highlight tonight, of course we're about to go in to an election, and people out there are saying, who can we trust to actually deliver? And we want to urge this government and all politicians to see the facts in this report, how severe the distress is, and on our good conscience, can we really allow this to go on for how much longer? What more evidence do you need?
Now, just before we come to electoral implications, there was a study done as part of this report, as I understand, that looked at the cost, but also what a government would get back from making this kind of investment. Can you just explain to me how it ends up, in the opinion of the committee, not costing the government in the end?
Well, the committee's research was very clear. We know it. Poverty costs. It costs you if it's you. It's affected. The acute mental distress, the risk of suicide. We know that people on JobSeeker have the highest risks of suicide because of how acute their deprivation is. The research is clear. People on JobSeeker are 14 times more likely to be going without one substantial meal a day. And what the report says today is that if we invest in fixing JobSeeker, you will save for every dollar you'll save 24 cents in terms of impact on the health system, for example, because of course people are presenting with chronic illness, becoming more and more unwell. This is the so-called social determinants of health era. You need to fix the basic economic supports for people so that they can stay well, they can do what they need to get out there and get a job, to retrain, and to have a sense of dignity in a very wealthy country that otherwise seems to be leaving them behind.
So you're making the argument there that there's actually a benefit to the budget bottom line of doing
Absolutely.
this rather than just a straight cost.
That's right, absolutely.
Now, you mentioned the fact that the election is forthcoming. Are there direct electoral implications? If we look at the numbers of people who are impacted in some of the marginal seats, are you able to see how many people receive JobSeeker, could be interested in what your committee is saying and what the government is saying in return?
So we've got it very clear. There are over 30 seats across the country where the percentage of the electorate who are relying on these payments is larger than the margin of the actual seat. And so this is about a democracy right now. We're about to go there, aren't we? There's going to be a budget delivered and then you're all going to be asked, who are you going to vote for? And we are highlighting to all politicians, you need to look at the evidence that's actually before you of who's in your electorate. Sometimes politicians say to me, Sarah, but people don't come up and talk to me about living on income support. And I say, you need to understand why. Because we've built a culture in this country of shaming people. You know, in a very wealthy country, for you to say, I am currently unemployed and I can't feed myself is a very hard thing for people to talk about. And I want to thank everybody who spoke up. There were people who spoke to the committee about this experience. And I want to say to the politicians, when will you actually stop asking people to explain again that $56 a day is not enough? And I think that the political party that comes through and says to people out there, I will fix this, if I get elected and I'll fix it quickly, will absolutely get confidence in terms of the vote. And the crossbench can see it. We've got overwhelming support from the crossbench for this.
Cassandra, Goldie, thank you very much indeed for coming in today.
Thank you.
Thank you.